Hey everyone! Today we are making baked potato wedges. So here I have 6 medium-sized russet potatoes, and then I'm cutting off any dark spots from bruises or just scabs that they got from wherever transport being dropped. Once you rinse and scrub your potatoes, preheat your oven to 450 degrees. And then I'm going to cut all 6 of my potatoes into potato wedges. I'm cutting mine relatively thin, and this is in part because I want them to cook relatively quickly. The bigger your potato wedges, the longer it's going to take for them to cook. So one of the biggest things when I've made potato wedges in the past is not being sure what temperature to bake them at and how to season them. So I'm going to cover both of those in this video. 450 degrees might sound high, but it allows us to get the potato wedges cooked all the way through while at the same time getting them to brown and crisp up on the outside. If you cook them at too low of a temperature, the potatoes will eventually get tender, but then they might be tender and then they're not browning on the outside, and we don't want that to happen. We want them to be cooked through and browning simultaneously. So 450 degrees. And then we will get back to cutting up all of our potatoes. We want to place them all into a very large mixing bowl. It's a lot of potatoes. We're going to be mixing them up, so we need lots of room. Once you have cut up all of your potatoes, we're going to add oil. We're going to add 1/4 cup of olive oil. I'm using light olive oil because it's good for using at high temperatures, and we are going to be baking our potato wedges at a high temperature. You can use olive oil or canola oil. Whatever oil you normally would bake or fry stuff with will work just fine. And then today I'm using a homemade burger and fry seasoning that I have a video for on my channel, so I will leave the link to that video and recipe down below in the description for you guys. And if you use that recipe, you're going to want to use 2.5 tablespoons of this burger and fry seasoning. This seasoning gives your potato wedges an amazing flavor. But you don't have to use that seasoning. Another seasoning that I would use would be steak seasoning. I really like the flavor of steak seasoning on potatoes. Or else I would just use salt and pepper and garlic powder and onion powder. So if you're using steak seasoning, I would do probably 2 tablespoons of steak seasoning. And if you're doing the combination of salt, pepper, garlic powder, and onion powder, I would do a teaspoon of salt, a teaspoon of garlic, a teaspoon of onion, and a 1/2 teaspoon of pepper. Adjust to what you need. But how do you normally season your potato wedges, your baked potato wedges? Leave me a comment down below. So once you've put your oil and your seasoning over your potatoes, just get right in there with your hands and mix them up. Get those potato wedges all coated with the oil and the seasoning so they get everything in every bite. I considered doing the mix with just some tongs, but that wouldn't have worked as good. Our hands are amazing tools. So once you have cut your potatoes and coated them with oil and seasoning, we're going to get out a big baking pan. If you don't have a big baking sheet or a big cookie sheet, use 2. And I am putting foil on mine just for easy cleanup. So once you've prepared your pan or your multiple pans, just pour out all of your potato wedges in an even layer onto the pan or pans. Now, if I were to do this again, I would use maybe fewer potatoes or use a second pan. The reason I say an even layer is we want each potato wedge to have its own personal space, because when it has its own personal space, it crisps up on all its sides a lot better. But when they're all smushed together and touching, they're sharing each other's steam, and so they're not getting that crispiness as efficiently. So that's why I say even layer and give them some space. But if you have one sheet, just like me, I just have one, and they're touching, don't fret, we can still get some good potato wedges. Once you have your potatoes onto their pan and all spread out in an even layer, we're going to put them in our oven for at least 35 minutes. But after 20 minutes, we're going to take them out and we're going to give them a toss. The bottom of the potato wedges might be starting to brown, so I'm just going to give them a quick toss, again to encourage them to crisp up. So then we're going to put them back in the oven for at least 15 minutes. You may want to do more, depending on how crispy you want your potato wedges to be, depending on how big you cut your potato wedges. Remember, if you cut them into larger wedges, they're going to take longer. So after your 15 minutes, the second round in the oven, take them out and see if they're tender, stab them with a fork. If the fork goes in smoothly, they're done in the middle, they should be done. I wouldn't be worried about them unless you have, like, if you just cut your potatoes in half and then you have these ginormous potato wedges. For the rest of us, are they golden brown on top? If they are not, stick them back in the oven, maybe at 5-minute increments. I only toss them after the first round, after that first 20 minutes, because when I got to my second round, the wedges were stuck onto my foil. But once they finish cooking and they do get that crispy bottom, you'll be able to scrape them off with a spatula. You'll probably end up having them in the oven for longer than 35 minutes, just however done you want them to be. All right? Everyone likes, some people like real dark crispy ones, some people just like them soft and tender, whatever floats your boat. And then once they are done, you can just get them out, get your plate, get your burger, maybe some salad, and then plate up some of your potato wedges. A spatula, like I said, spatula, I was able to scrape them off relatively easy, which it doesn't look like I'm doing right here, but it's just because I have one hand. And so as you can see, I was flipping some of these over. The bottoms are nice and brown and crispy. So we got our potato wedges out, and then you can get out whatever kind of condiment you want. The classic ketchup is perfect. Some people like ranch. I may have tried honey mustard, dipping them in honey mustard. But whatever condiment you want, or none. They are delicious by themselves. Again, the burger and fry seasoning I used, again, I'll link that down below for you guys to check out. I would eat these potato wedges without any ketchup. Have you guys ever been to a restaurant, even if it's like a fast food restaurant, maybe not counting McDonald's, but a fast food restaurant or even a regular restaurant, and you get your potato wedges or your french fries, and they're blah. They're like not salty. We won't even talk about whether or not they're crispy, but they don't have seasoning by themselves. You wouldn't eat them by yourselves. You have to dip them in ketchup or ranch or something. These potato wedges with that seasoning is delicious by themselves. But of course, I did enjoy eating them with my ketchup. A little close up for you guys. Bon appetit. But hey, if you found this video useful, hit that like button. If you think someone else would find it useful, go ahead and share this video with them. I will pop all of the directions down below in the description for you guys. See, they're that good. There's a happy food dance. And then go check out one of these two videos on screen.